Let's talk about named ACLs for a few minutes, and we'll configure one or two as well, because the great thing about these, not only do they allow you to get around the numbering limitation that we can run into if we're only using numbered ACLs, but the rules are the same. The rules are the same for numbered, standard, and extended ACLs as they are for named standard and extended ACLs. They still run from top to bottom. The standard ACLs still only use one factor. You know what that is by now. You know what the deal is with the extended and what's required there and what's optional. It's the exact same rules. One real-world word of advice here. When you're naming an ACL, don't use an end user's name in it that you don't like, and don't use a prescription drug name, because I've seen both of those. And then I've seen them brought up in meetings, and you really don't want to be that guy who says, well, you know, this list, such and such. I mean, just don't do it. Don't get too cute with it. And just when you write an ACL that's blocking Telnet, perhaps a good name to give that ACL would be no Telnet or blocking Telnet, something along that line. But don't name an ACL anything that you don't want to see up in a PowerPoint presentation one day. Let's just put it that way. Now, let's take a look at the command here, and it is actually IP access list. Now, there are a couple of logging options here, but this isn't actually logging your entries. We're going to do some of that in the VTY section coming up next. But right now, let's concentrate on extended and standard. And you can see that extended, you still at this point can give it the number, you know, from 100 to 199 on this particular router with IP access list. But what you would probably do here, let's say again you were blocking Telnet, just put no Telnet. And I know some people hate to type. You know, that's fine. You don't have to type it a million times, but just type it once. Give it a descriptive name. And then you would just create. And you're already thinking, well, wait a minute, you know, I haven't done anything yet. Well, let's call this, let's go with no Telnet for standard. And you'll notice here that, again, we've just got create. We haven't done anything yet, right? We haven't denied anything. We haven't permitted anything. We haven't done anything like that at all. So let's go ahead and hit enter and see what happens. And what it does, it drops you into named access control list configuration mode. And now is when you're going to start putting in your statements about permitting and denying. Just a little different. You have to get used to it. If you wanted to say deny and just do a host on that, and we'll just pick 172.12.123.1, and you wanted to permit any, then there you go. And of course you have that log option at the end of each one of these lines. But it's just something you have to get a little used to. It threw me the first time as you're looking at it and you're typing in, you know, IP access list standard no telnet, you know, and then you go straight into your permit or whatever. Well, it doesn't want you to do that when you're doing named ACLs. What you're going to do is just IP access list, then choose standard or extended, then name it, and then you're going to drop into that config mode and you do it from there. So it's just a slightly different way of doing things. And what we're going to do here, now there's a command, no IP access list, no telnet. I should have just done no access list, I'm sure. Yep. Okay, what am I doing wrong there? Ah. Got to put it all there? Really? Okay. Oh, okay. Well, we both learned something there. It had been a while since I'd taken a named one off there. I was like, why can't we take that named one off? But you do have to go. I forgot to put the standard in there, so that was on me. See, we all drop back to iOS help. That's what I'm telling you. Never be afraid to ask for directions, and never be afraid to use iOS help. What we're going to do right now, then, is go into a brief discussion about the VTY lines. As you can see, it's very brief. And then we're actually going to configure it. We'll see the blocking in action. We'll see the permitting in action, I hope. And we'll throw some logging in there as well. Because you might want to allow and deny telnet access on an IP address basis, you know, using the source IP address of the connection. What you can do then is write an access list, and you apply it to the VTY lines the same way that you would put the login command on there or the password command on there, but you've got to use the access class command to apply it to the VTY lines. That's a very important detail to remember. So let's go ahead and jump right in and do some of that. And first off, we're going to configure this router, router 3, to allow Telnet in the first place. Most of you have probably heard this little lecture of mine before, but the reason I did that, don't panic when you see login disabled on all these lines, because I see people online occasionally just go, oh no, I killed my login, what do I do now? Until password is set. Once you write the password, you're perfectly fine. So let's go ahead to router 2 first off, and I'm just using the 172.12.123.0/24 network, our frame network. And let's go ahead and do a quick check and make sure we can telnet in from everywhere, and we can do it from router 2. And let's go ahead and telnet here from router 1. And in both cases, we're immediately prompted for the password, and in both cases, we were able to get in. So there's no problem. What we're going to do when we come back, and that was a little bit of a tease, but what we're going to do when we go to the next video is block one of these routers from telnetting, but not the other one. Let's say we just have one we want to allow, and we're going to deny everybody else. Or we could just deny one and permit everybody else. But we'll also throw the log option in there, and I'll show you how that can come in handy too. So I'll see you in the next video, and we'll continue with this lab.